They warned everyone. Across galaxies, across star systems light years apart, the message was always the same. Don't cross humans. Yet curiosity, reckless and unyielding, had a way of ignoring warnings. Commander Leora of the Seraphic Fleet leaned over the control panel, her silver eyes reflecting the holographic star map that stretched like a web across the room. It's just a primitive species, she murmured to herself, but the words sounded hollow even to her own ears. Reports had been piling in for decades, humans thriving on worlds that should have been inhospitable, colonies flourishing where no other species could survive, ships navigating storms of cosmic radiation that would shred any other vessel to atoms. Commander? Lieutenant Varen's voice cut through the tense silence. His tone held a mixture of fear and fascination that Leora could not ignore. The human vessel. It's entered the Orion expanse. Alone. Alone, Leora repeated slowly, tasting the word like bitter ash. Reckless, dangerous, unthinkable, and yet, there it was. A human ship gliding into the heart of Seraphic-controlled space, unarmed, calm, and defiant. The warning messages from countless civilizations flashed in her mind. Whispers from every corner of the universe. They survive everything. They fight like storms. They endure when hope is gone. They never surrender. And yet the Seraphic Fleet had ignored the caution, believing their superior technology and overwhelming numbers would be enough. Someone just did it, Leora whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the ship's systems. Her hand hovered over the fleet's alert console. Her crew felt the tension radiate like heat from a star. Every sensor, every scanner, every instrument was focused on the human ship's pulse. Not chaotic, not erratic, but steady, calm, almost human. Lieutenant Varen swallowed hard. They'll regret this, he said, though even he didn't sound convinced. He knew the stories, the legends of humans surviving impossible odds, and yet, part of him hoped this was an exaggeration. Regret? Leora echoed, a shadow of doubt creeping into her voice. She studied the vessel's trajectory. Its movements were precise but unpredictable, elegant yet seemingly careless. It did not mimic any known tactics, any known logic. It was not reckless. It was something else entirely, a mixture of courage, intuition, and something she could not define. The crew shifted uneasily. Some muttered under their breaths, recounting tales of worlds that had fallen to human ingenuity. Planets abandoned by other species, yet claimed by humans, turned fertile. Starships destroyed by natural anomalies that humans had navigated as if guided by instinct. How could a species so small, so fragile-looking survive where giants fell? And now here they were, alone, crossing into a region no one dared to enter. Leora's hand rested on the console, trembling slightly, not with fear for herself, but with awe at the creature that had defied the universe's expectations. Commander, Varen said again, quieter this time. The humans, they don't just survive. They endure. They adapt. He stopped. Words failed him. He could not articulate what made humans terrifying. Not their strength, not their weapons, not their numbers. It was their spirit. Their indomitable will. Leora's gaze hardened. History has proven one thing, Varen. The universe has underestimated humans before, and every time it paid the price. Her voice was calm, but a weight pressed upon her chest, the kind of weight that comes when you know the rules have changed. When the known universe suddenly feels smaller, more fragile, and more dangerous than ever. Outside the fleet's massive viewport, the human ship glided closer. Its lights pulsed steadily like a heartbeat, quiet, measured, yet insistent. It carried no threats, no warnings, no weapons drawn, yet every officer on Leora's bridge felt the unspoken challenge emanating from it. I am here. I will not bow. I will not retreat. And so, the warning that had echoed through millennia now stood in full, undeniable clarity. Do not cross humans. Do not test them. Do not mistake them for weaklings. And yet someone, some fool, some curious soul, had just done it. History, it seemed, was about to repeat itself. The hum of the control panels filled the room. The starlit expanse stretched beyond, silent and indifferent. And at its center, a single human vessel moved with unwavering purpose, carrying a message the universe was only beginning to understand. Cross us, and you will see what happens. The human ship, Aurora, glided through the void like a silver arrow. Its hull shimmered faintly under the distant starlight, a small vessel carrying a courage that dwarfed its size. Captain Elias stood at the helm, his hands resting lightly on the controls, his gaze steady, unflinching. Around him the crew moved with silent precision, each action purposeful, each gesture confident. Across the fleet, Leora's bridge was tense. The seraphic vessels loomed like predatory birds, weapons raised, shields glowing. Every sensor monitored the human ship's approach, analyzing its speed, its trajectory, its energy signature. And yet the numbers made no sense. It shouldn't be possible, her tactical officer muttered. Every calculation predicted failure. Every prediction expected hesitation. And yet here they were, humans moving forward, unarmed, undeterred. Communications, Leora commanded, her voice a mixture of curiosity and caution. Open a channel. Static crackled across the console. Then a calm, resonant voice filled the bridge, clear and unwavering. I am Captain Elias of the human vessel Aurora. We come in peace and request dialogue. But know this, we do not bow to fear and we do not retreat from challenge. A hush fell over the room. Even the most seasoned officers, trained for battle and diplomacy alike, felt the weight of those words. There was no arrogance, no bluff, no threat. Yet something in that calm certainty was more unsettling than any weapon. Leora swallowed. They speak with the certainty of those who have nothing to lose or everything to gain, she murmured. Outside, the human ship drifted closer, its engines silent but purposeful. The fleet shifted nervously. Protocol demanded a show of force, a demonstration of dominance. Yet every instinct in Leora's mind screamed caution. Humans were different. Shields at maximum, she ordered, though her hands trembled slightly. Prepare for all contingencies and keep communications open. Elias, unaware of the tension he had stirred, watched the alien vessels with quiet focus. To him, this was another negotiation, another obstacle, another test. Humans thrived in the unknown. Fear was a signal, not a limitation, and when all else failed, they relied on something no scanner could measure: resolve. The first probe launched from the Seraphic flagship, intended to scan the Aurora. Yet it barely reached the outer hull before its systems overloaded. Analyzers reported impossible energy readings, systems operating beyond expectation. Lieutenant Varen blinked, disbelief etched across his face. It's surviving their tests, he whispered. It's enduring. Leora's heart raced. Every calculation, every prediction, every historical warning screamed at her. Humans are not like other species. They are fragile yet unbreakable, small yet monumental. They endure storms of radiation, storms of logic, storms of despair, and emerge. The human ship stopped, perfectly aligned with the Seraphic flagship. Elias's voice returned, calm and measured. We seek dialogue. But understand this, testing us will not break us. Threats will not intimidate us. Underestimate us and you will see what humans are capable of. Silence followed, heavy and suffocating. The officers on Leora's bridge shifted uneasily. No alien race had ever spoken this way. None had dared to combine humility with unshakable defiance. Humans were extraordinary. And somewhere deep in Leora's mind, a thought struck like lightning. Do not cross them. Yet, someone had already done it. The stage was set. The fleet waited, the humans waited, and across the silent void, the universe seemed to hold its breath. The Seraphic fleet had devised the ultimate test: worlds of famine, storms of gravity and radiation, illusions designed to break the mind. No species had ever endured them all. No species, that is, except humans. Captain Elias stood on the bridge of the Aurora, his crew ready, their eyes steady, hearts calm. They had been trained for adversity, for the impossible, for moments when the universe itself seemed to conspire against them. Yet nothing could have prepared them for the scale of the challenge that now awaited. Simulations active, Elias said softly. Let's see what we're made of. Outside, the void warped. A barren world appeared on the sensors, its surface jagged and lifeless, its atmosphere thick with toxic gases. Gravity pulses shifted unpredictably, and lightning storms danced across the horizon in impossible patterns. The Seraphic officers watching remotely expected failure. Every calculation predicted the human crew would panic, freeze, or retreat. But the humans moved with precision. They adapted. Lieutenant Mara, a sharp-minded engineer, monitored the energy fluctuations. "Captain, the gravity waves are increasing," she reported, her voice calm. Others might have panicked, but Mara's mind raced with possibilities. She rerouted power to the stabilizers, adjusted the propulsion arrays, and whispered a small encouragement to the ship's AI. "We've got this." Elias nodded, sensing the crew's confidence. Humans didn't just react, they anticipated, improvised, and transformed obstacles into opportunities. The Aurora dipped low into the storm, riding turbulence as if it were wind across an open plain. Where other species might have faltered, humans found rhythm, momentum, a strange kind of harmony with chaos itself. Meanwhile, in the observation chambers of the Seraphic flagship, Commander Leora's jaw tightened. "They're improvising," she muttered, disbelief painting her features. Her analysts were frantically recalculating probabilities. No algorithm could predict human ingenuity. No model could account for their resilience. Each time the aliens thought the humans had reached their limit, they adapted, survived, and pressed forward. The first psychological test came next. Holographic illusions designed to make the humans believe their crewmates were in mortal danger flickered across the ship's viewports. Friends disappeared in fires that could not exist. Enemies appeared where none should be. Panic, terror, despair. These were weapons meant to crush the mind, yet the humans saw through it. They spoke calmly to one another, reminding each other of reality, of trust, of reason. Where others might have crumbled under the manipulation of perception, the human crew anchored themselves in courage, empathy, and clarity. "Focus on what we can control," Elias said quietly. "Everything else is noise." And it was enough. The Seraphic commanders exchanged worried glances. "How is this possible?" whispered Lieutenant Varon. "Every species collapses under even one trial. They've survived 3. The trials intensified. Hunger simulations, environmental hazards, gravitational anomalies designed to rip ships apart. Every attempt to test human endurance was met with ingenuity. Supplies were rationed cleverly, ship systems rerouted in ways even their alien monitors could not predict. When illusions of betrayal arose, the humans did not fight each other. They reinforced trust, communicating openly, strategizing together. Hours passed, yet the Aurora moved forward, unbroken. Leora felt a cold realization settle into her chest. Humans were more than survivors. They were resilient beyond logic, adaptable beyond prediction, and courageous beyond fear. By the time the last test began, a massive gravitational storm meant to shatter the ship, the humans were ready. Elias guided the Aurora with steady hands, eyes focused, every crew member working in perfect synchrony. They rode the storm like riders on a tidal wave, turning chaos into motion, danger into opportunity. And when the storm ended, the humans were still intact, stronger, calmer, unyielding. The observation chamber was silent. Leora's hand hovered over the communication console. Every officer knew what this meant. Humans could endure the impossible. They could survive when others would die. They could overcome when every calculation said they would fail. "They warned us," Leora murmured. Her voice was low, almost reverent. "They told us, don't cross humans. Someone just did, and now, we understand." On the bridge of the Aurora, Captain Elias looked out at the vast, indifferent stars. "We are ready," he said. And in his calm certainty, the universe seemed to pause, listening. Because humans were not just surviving, they were proving something deeper. That spirit, courage, and unity could defy even the coldest reaches of space, and no force, no matter how great, could break them. The silence of space was deceptive. The Seraphic fleet, vast and imposing, had watched the humans endure impossible trials. They had expected collapse, fear, surrender. Yet now the human vessel Aurora emerged from the trials intact, its crew unbroken, its captain calm and unwavering. Commander Leora's hands hovered over the controls. Tension knotted deep in her shoulders. Every officer on the bridge knew the stakes. This was no longer a test, it was a confrontation. And the humans, for all their apparent fragility, had already proven something terrifying. They were unpredictable. "Open communications," Leora commanded, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. The alien fleet had weapons ready, shields raised, and strategies calculated to perfection. Yet they hesitated, because humans did not fight like any species they had known. Humans adapted. Humans endured. Humans could turn disadvantage into advantage in ways no algorithm could foresee. Static crackled across the channel, then clarity. Elias's voice, calm, measured, and resolute, filled the bridge. "Commander Leora, I am Captain Elias of the human vessel Aurora. We have completed your tests. We seek dialogue, not conflict. But understand this. Any aggression toward us will meet not only resistance, but response. We do not bow to fear, nor do we retreat from challenge." Leora's officers exchanged uneasy glances. Words had power, but humans wielded them like tools, carefully, precisely, as if the tone alone could unsettle their enemies. The alien fleet had never encountered an opponent who could challenge their authority without a weapon drawn. "Prepare. Defensive measures," Leora said, though even she hesitated. "Maintain readiness, but hold fire." Deep inside, she knew this confrontation was different. The humans weren't merely surviving. They were claiming space, asserting presence, testing resolve, and teaching the universe a lesson it had long forgotten: the power of spirit. Elias turned to his crew. Lieutenant Mara adjusted systems with quiet focus. Navigator Jin recalculated trajectories with precise intuition. Each crew member moved in perfect harmony, anticipating challenges, improvising solutions, and keeping calm under pressure. Humans thrived on coordination, trust, and ingenuity, their unity a weapon more potent than any laser or missile. The first seraphic probe moved toward the Aurora, scanning systems, testing shields. Every reading returned anomalies, energy signatures, beyond predicted tolerances, reactions that defied physics, endurance that made the fleet's officers uneasy. The probe faltered, then disengaged, systems overheating. The humans had not attacked. They had simply survived. Leora clenched her fists. "How?" she whispered. The reports were impossible. Every species had limits. Every fleet had control. Yet the humans ignored limitations. They turned obstacles into opportunity, pressure into focus, fear into resolve. Elias' voice came again, calm, unwavering. "We do not seek war, we seek understanding. But understand this: underestimate humans at your peril." The tension in the fleet was palpable. Alien officers who had faced countless wars, countless threats, now felt a creeping unease. Humans were not only capable, they were exceptional. Each act, each decision, each calm response to danger amplified the truth that had been whispered across the cosmos for centuries: do not cross humans. Suddenly, one of the seraphic warships miscalculated, overcompensating for the human ship's unpredictable maneuvers. A minor collision warning flashed. Panic flickered across the bridge, a reaction human intuition might have predicted. Elias's crew, however, acted swiftly, adjusting trajectory, stabilizing the ship, all while maintaining communication, clarity, and poise. Humans were not reactive, they were anticipatory. "Commander," Varen said, voice low, almost awed. "They're controlling the situation without firing a single shot. They're dominating the engagement." Leora exhaled slowly. Her mind raced, tracing probabilities, calculating outcomes, and realizing that none of them mattered. Humans did not play by known rules. Their resilience, adaptability, and unshakable spirit rewrote the rules as they went. Across the void, the Aurora hovered, poised yet calm, a silent challenge to every weapon, every algorithm, every assumption. Humans did not need to strike. They existed as proof that strength was more than technology, more than numbers, more than fear. Strength was resolve. Strength was unity. Strength was courage. And in that silent standoff, Leora understood the terrifying beauty of the species she had underestimated. Someone had crossed humans, and now, the universe itself was learning the cost of underestimation. The bridge fell silent. Outside, stars stretched endlessly. Inside, the Seraphic fleet faced a profound truth. Humans were not merely participants in the universe. They were forces of nature, forces that no calculation, no weapon, no history could ever fully contain. And so the stage was set, not for destruction, not yet, but for a reckoning that would be remembered across the stars. The void between the fleets was silent, almost reverent. The Seraphic fleet loomed like an immovable wall of metal and energy, weapons ready, shields humming, minds filled with centuries of logic and calculation. And yet the human ship Aurora floated in the center, small, unassuming, and utterly unbroken. Captain Elias stood at the helm, his gaze unwavering. "They're testing us," he murmured to Lieutenant Mara. "Let them." Mara nodded. Her fingers danced over the console, rerouting power to the shields, adjusting propulsion, monitoring energy fluctuations. Humans had always thrived when the odds were impossible. Survival was not just instinct, it was strategy, improvisation, and courage, woven together into something the universe could not calculate. The Seraphic fleet advanced, intending to intimidate, to force the humans into compliance. Their warships moved with precision, deploying light patterns that could blind sensors, gravitational pulses meant to destabilize ships, and psychological waves designed to erode morale. Every tactic, every simulation, every known method of domination was unleashed, and still, the humans held steady. Captain Elias spoke to his crew, calm and clear. "Observe, adapt, use what they give us. Never react with fear. Make every move count." As the fleet unleashed a wave of energy meant to crush the Aurora, the human crew responded in perfect synchrony. Mara rerouted energy to the shields just as Jin, the navigator, calculated a precise counter-thrust. Systems that should have failed survived. The energy pulse dispersed harmlessly. The humans had not fired a single shot, yet they had turned the attack against its source. Leora, observing from the flagship, felt a cold shiver travel down her spine. "They're deflecting our attacks without striking," she whispered. The calculations made no sense. They were enduring, adapting, and manipulating the very forces meant to destroy them. Every prediction of failure had been proven wrong. Humans did not merely survive, they excelled where no one else could. Elias spoke again, calm but firm over the universal translator. "We do not seek to destroy you. We do not seek conquest. But know this, underestimate humans at your peril. Every threat, every attempt to dominate only teaches us how to endure and overcome." And the Seraphic fleet began to feel it. A subtle, creeping unease spread through their ranks. Human resilience was more than stubbornness. It was strategy, intelligence, unity, and courage. Where the fleet expected panic, it found calm. Where it expected chaos, it found clarity. Where it expected retreat, it found resolve. The humans moved with uncanny synchronization, turning each obstacle into an opportunity. When the aliens attempted to jam communications, the humans relied on hand signals and pre-planned coordination. When supply systems were challenged, they innovated in real time, rationing and optimizing beyond expectation. Every challenge became a demonstration of human adaptability. And then came the psychological turn. The Seraphic fleet, trained to dominate through intimidation, faced a species that refused to fear. Every display of strength, every attempt at aggression, was met with calm observation and measured action. The humans did not fight the fleet. They forced the fleet to fight themselves, exposing hesitation, uncertainty, and miscalculations. Leora clenched her fists. "They're controlling the engagement." "Without firing a single weapon," Varen said, awe-stricken. "It's as if the humans are teaching us a lesson." Elias observed the fleet carefully. He did not need to fire a shot to win. Their fear of loss, their need for control, was already playing into human hands. One miscalculated strike, one hesitation, and the humans would exploit it. They didn't seek dominance through violence, they achieved it through presence, ingenuity, and unshakable resolve. Hours passed. The Aurora remained poised, calm, and unbroken. The Seraphic commanders, for the first time, realized something profound. The humans could not be controlled, intimidated, or crushed. Not by force, not by calculation, not by fear. Humans endured. Humans adapted. Humans overcame. And in that realization, the tide began to turn. What had started as a confrontation became a demonstration. Humans were not just survivors. They were exemplars of resilience and spirit. A species small in number but vast in courage, capable of rewriting the rules of engagement simply by refusing to surrender to expectation. Captain Elias stood at the helm, his voice steady and clear, carrying a message that would echo far beyond this moment. We are humans. We endure, we adapt. We survive, and we will always rise. Across the void, the Seraphic fleet understood, perhaps for the first time, what countless civilizations had whispered for centuries. Humans were extraordinary. To cross them was to awaken forces no one could fully comprehend. And so the confrontation ended, not with a strike, not with destruction, but with recognition. Recognition of a species that defied the universe's expectations, and in doing so, reminded all who watched why humans were never to be underestimated. The tension that had gripped the Seraphic fleet for hours slowly began to shift. Where once there had been weapons raised and shields glowing with intent to dominate, now there was uncertainty. The human vessel Aurora hovered calmly, a small but unshakable presence amid the vast armada. Its crew had endured trials meant to crush them, had turned aggression into opportunity, and had demonstrated a resolve that no calculation could contain. Commander Leora exhaled, leaning back in her chair. I cannot comprehend it, she admitted quietly, her voice tinged with awe and frustration. Every prediction failed. Every expectation shattered. They're different. Lieutenant Varen, still staring at the sensors, nodded slowly. We've been warned for centuries. Every species, every fleet, every historian whispered it. Don't cross humans. And yet here we are. Across the channel, Captain Elias spoke, calm, deliberate, and unwavering. Commander Leora, we have proven we are capable of enduring and overcoming your trials. We do not seek conflict, but we will not tolerate threats or attempts at domination. The choice is yours, Leora paused. Every officer on the bridge felt it. The quiet power of restraint, the subtle force of presence. Humans did not need to attack to dominate. Their courage, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit had already done what weapons could not. They had shifted the balance not through aggression, but through excellence. Prepare a delegation, Leora ordered finally, her mind racing. We will open dialogue. But carefully. She turned to Varen. We underestimated them. That will not happen again. On the Aurora, Elias smiled faintly, though his face was calm. Humans thrived in adversity, and they understood that peace was as much a test as any battle. A dialogue, he said. Good. Let it be honest and let it be guided by understanding. When the delegation assembled, the Seraphic officers approached cautiously. Their armor gleamed, their weapons idle, their minds alert for deception or threat. Yet the humans met them not with fear or submission, but with dignity, calm confidence, and unwavering purpose. Mara, the engineer, spoke first, outlining the human capacity for survival, cooperation, and adaptation. We have faced challenges you designed to test us, she said. We have endured. We have adapted. We have overcome. But we do not seek dominance. We seek mutual respect, understanding, and coexistence. One of the senior Seraphic commanders, a towering figure named Carrion, studied her carefully. Your species operates outside logic, he said slowly. You endure what others cannot. You survive what others fail. You adapt where others break. It is extraordinary. Elias stepped forward. We are humans. Our strength lies not in numbers, not in weapons, but in spirit. Courage, ingenuity, and unity are the tools we wield. Cross us and you will see what happens. Respect us and we will teach you what humanity can offer. Endurance, creativity, and the willingness to face the impossible together. Leora, observing silently, felt a profound shift within herself. Humans were not merely a species to be measured or controlled. They were a force, an unpredictable, indefinable force that reshaped expectations simply by existing. And in their presence, she realized, the universe itself felt smaller, more alive, more remarkable. Carrion lowered his weapon slowly. You have survived every test, and more importantly, you have demonstrated the power of your spirit. Perhaps the universe has underestimated humans for too long. Elias inclined his head. Perhaps. But understanding is the first step toward a future where we are not underestimated. Let this encounter be remembered not as a battle but as a lesson. And so, the humans had not merely endured, they had reshaped the perception of an entire fleet, forcing even the most logical and disciplined beings to reconsider what strength truly meant. The Aurora floated at the center of the armada, unarmed, unthreatened, yet commanding respect through presence alone. As the fleets disengaged, Leora's voice came softly over the channel, almost as if speaking to herself. Do not cross humans. Someone has, and we have learned why. The message, whispered across systems, would resonate far beyond this single encounter. Humans were not just survivors. They were exemplars of resilience, courage, and ingenuity. They were the reminder that spirit could defy expectation, that determination could defy logic, and that the smallest vessel could challenge the largest fleet when guided by purpose. And in that quiet reckoning, the universe learned a lesson that would never be forgotten. The Aurora drifted silently in the expanse of stars, its hull glowing faintly, almost like a heartbeat in the darkness. The Seraphic fleet had retreated not in defeat but in quiet acknowledgement. They had learned a lesson that could not be measured in data, technology, or firepower. Humans were different. Humans were extraordinary. Humans endured where others failed. Captain Elias stood at the helm, his gaze sweeping the starlit void. They will remember, he said softly. They will remember what we are capable of. Lieutenant Mara nodded, adjusting the ship's instruments. Not just remember. They'll respect it, and in respect there is peace, understanding, perhaps even cooperation. Elias allowed himself a small, rare smile. Humans had survived trials meant to break them, outmaneuvered strategies meant to confound them, and faced an entire fleet with nothing but courage, ingenuity, and unity. That was their power. That was their legacy. Across the void, the Seraphic commanders huddled on their flagships. Commander Leora's hands rested lightly on the console, her silver eyes distant and thoughtful. I underestimated them, she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. Every assumption I made, every calculation I trusted, it failed. They are beyond comprehension. Lieutenant Varen, standing beside her, nodded. They're not just resilient, Commander. They're human, and that's terrifying, but inspiring. The Seraphic fleet would return to their systems with stories of a species that defied the universe's rules. They would tell of humans who survived storms that would crush other races, who endured illusions designed to destroy minds, who turned aggression into opportunity without firing a single shot. They would tell of the calm, unwavering resolve of Captain Elias and his crew. Humans did not conquer through fear. They did not dominate through violence. They commanded respect through resilience, ingenuity, and spirit. Back aboard the Aurora, the crew moved quietly but efficiently. There was no celebration, no bravado. Humans did not seek glory in the suffering of others. They sought mastery over themselves and their circumstances. Their triumph was subtle yet profound. Elias spoke to his crew, voice calm but resolute. This encounter will be remembered, not for the trials we faced, but for how we faced them. Courage, unity, adaptability, these are what make us human. And these are what will endure. The crew understood. They had proven something greater than survival. They had proven that spirit could defy expectation, that determination could transcend limitations, and that even a single vessel, guided by purpose and humanity, could challenge an entire fleet. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, the universe seemed to shift ever so slightly, not in its structure, not in its physics, but in its understanding. Somewhere in the void, countless civilizations would hear the whispers. Do not cross humans. They endure. They overcome. They rise. Elias turned to the observation deck, watching the Seraphic fleet retreat into the distance. We didn't need to fight, he said. We only needed to be ourselves. And that was enough. Mara glanced at him, her eyes bright with quiet pride. Enough for them to remember and enough for the universe to understand. Leora, on her distant flagship, watched the human ship fade into the stars. She allowed herself a rare, genuine smile. Someone crossed them, she murmured. And now we see why the warnings existed. The universe has underestimated humans for too long. Across systems, across worlds, across time, that lesson would endure. Humans were fragile in appearance but unbreakable in spirit, small in size yet monumental in courage, vulnerable, yet capable of greatness beyond imagination. The Aurora continued its journey through the stars, carrying not just a crew, not just a message, but a living testament to the essence of humanity. Every star it passed, every world it approached, every eye that observed it would remember this moment. The moment a human vessel faced the impossible, endured, and proved the truth of a warning whispered across galaxies. Don't cross humans. And in that legacy, the universe had learned something profound. Humans were not merely participants in the cosmic order. They were a force, a standard, a reminder that courage, ingenuity, and spirit could transcend all boundaries. And as Captain Elias looked out at the endless expanse, he knew the truth in his heart. The story was only beginning. Humans had endured. Humans had triumphed. And the universe would never forget.